In this video, I'll show you how to make delicious and super easy jalapeno poppers using just a few ingredients. There's no need for breading or deep frying in this recipe, just a few simple ingredients for an incredible flavor. If you've had jalapeno poppers, you know why I'm very excited right now because I get to eat jalapeno poppers today. The combination of fresh green jalapenos and cheeses, and in this case, some sausage and a couple of garnishes, make for truly one of the best flavor combinations in my opinion. There are many different ways you can make jalapeno poppers: on the grill, on the smoker, but today I'll be doing it indoors in the oven. I'll also include some optional modifications here based on your heat preference and what your plan is for those jalapeno poppers, and some easy ways to make them in advance if you're bringing them to a party. Before I get into the ingredients, the first thing is to preheat your oven to 375 and get a baking sheet ready with some tinfoil or parchment paper. Now for the ingredients: 10 or 12 large jalapenos. Large being a very operative word there. The bigger the pepper, the better, because for one, you get a bigger cavity inside, which you can stuff with more of the cheesy filling, but also the thicker walls tend to hold up better and produce a less floppy popper. Nobody wants a floppy popper. And that's especially important in this recipe because, like I said, we're not breading them or deep frying, which does add some extra structural integrity to your poppers. So without that coating, we do want to use nice sturdy peppers. And by the way, jalapenos are the standard, but if you don't like spicy food, you can use a sweet pepper, and I'm going to do that today with this banana pepper, which has no heat whatsoever, but it has a very similar sort of profile. It is bigger, but it has nice thick walls, and when we slice lengthwise, we can stuff it with plenty of filling. 1 brick of cream cheese. I'm using Philadelphia, of course, and I did let this come to room temperature so it's nice and easy to mix. 1 cup of freshly grated Parmesan if you can. It doesn't have to be fresh, but that will give you the best flavor. And then 1/2 pound of hot Italian sausage. Again, you don't have to use hot sausage, you could use sweet, but we do like our poppers nice and spicy, so I always go with hot sausage. One other optional ingredient for the filling if you want extra spice is just a pinch of cayenne, about 1/8 teaspoon or 1/4 teaspoon, depending on your spice tolerance and preferences. That's all the ingredients for the poppers themselves, but at the end, after they've cooked, we like to add a couple of garnishes, including smoked paprika, which adds a nice smokiness to the poppers, and then fresh chives, which I just harvested from our garden. Dice them up really fine and sprinkle them over the top for a perfect garnish. So with the oven preheating and all of our ingredients ready, all that's left to do is assemble the poppers. First, I like to brown the sausage, and you may be able to find pre-ground hot sausage, but in our case, we had to use sausage links, so you may have to slice them open lengthwise and remove the skins to get to the sausage inside. Then brown the sausage over medium-high heat for about 5 to 7 minutes until it's nice and crispy. And here's a pro tip for grinding up your sausage into nice fine bits like you see here. Use a potato masher towards the end and push down and twist. It takes about a minute or less to get your sausage into nice crumbly fine pieces. And one more tip on the sausage: after you've cooked it, put it onto a plate and dab it with a paper towel to remove most of the grease. Otherwise, your poppers might end up with a slimy finish all over them, making them less appetizing. While the sausage is cooking, you can prepare your peppers, and for this, I am gonna wear 1 nitrile glove because jalapenos are notorious for burning your skin. It'll tend to appear later, usually after you shower with hot water. It opens up your pores and allows that capsaicin to get into your skin. So I'm gonna protect my left hand here when I'm scooping out the seeds. But first we're gonna slice the peppers lengthwise and try to choose a side that will sit comfortably after it's sliced. So try to avoid poppers that have a very rounded bottom, though in some cases you can't really avoid it. And there's no need to remove the stems. Sometimes they actually help hold up the peppers when you lay them flat, and they can provide a nice little handle later when you're eating them. Now it's time to remove the seeds and placenta. That's where a lot of the heat actually resides in jalapenos. Most of it actually is in that placenta. The seeds don't actually contain heat, but they're attached to the part that does. So we just want to scrape everything out and make a nice clean cavity to fill with the filling. And this always tends to make a huge mess. Yep. These little ones are for your aunt that doesn't like spicy food, and she's like, "Is it hot? can I try one? You say, just have that one. And then 9 times out of 10, they're a convert after that, and they want spicier and spicier. For the filling, it couldn't be easier. A brick of cream cheese, room temperature, the browned and crumbled sausage going in. It's a ½ pound. And a cup of Parmesan cheese. How could this be bad, right? Oh, I should have used a bigger bowl. You might need to use a fork to get that cream cheese to mix in there nicely. You can also microwave the cream cheese a little bit just to soften it up and make it easier to mix and ultimately get into the poppers, but this should be fine. But make sure you mix it nice and thoroughly, get everything evenly incorporated. So you should end up with a sort of cookie dough-like texture. The Parmesan sort of soaks up some of the moisture and makes it nice and firm. So this is gonna nicely pack into the peppers. One thing I forgot to do is spray the surface of the baking sheet. If you're using parchment paper, you probably don't have to, but with tin foil, it's gonna make it easier for them to release. So I like to pack the peppers just about to the surface. You don't want them to be overflowing because they can sort of melt down a bit while they bake and overflow and make them a little too greasy. So I like to pack them just about to the surface like so. Pop them onto the baking sheet and move on to the next one. This can get a little bit messy, but hopefully you don't worry too much about presentation. If you are, just be really careful and try to clean up as you go. By the way, if you want to print out this recipe, we have it on our website, peppergeek.com. I'll leave a link to it down below. And if you do want to try taking your poppers to another level, we have another jalapeno popper recipe, which can be deep fried or baked, but they are breaded for a little extra flavor. I have some extra filling here and some extra peppers, and frankly, I don't need 5,000 jalapeno poppers today. So what I'm gonna do and what you can do is you can freeze these and use them later. You can also just put them in the refrigerator like this, covered with some plastic wrap for a few days if you wanna make them in advance for a party. Take them out and bake them straight out of the fridge. But if you wanna freeze them, I recommend putting them in the freezer on a tray like this if it'll fit, or a smaller tray or plate, flat and open like this for maybe an hour or two until they're nice and firmed up. Then you can throw them into a freezer bag and freeze them for maybe 1 or 2 months. If you do freeze them, you want to take them out and put them right onto a baking tray, throw them in the oven, same temperature for maybe 5 or 10 minutes longer to account for them needing to thaw. So I'll do that with all of these after I finish filming this video. So for now, I have a little over a dozen poppers here, which will last about 30 minutes in this household after they're finished, but into the oven for about 20 minutes until you see the surface starting to turn brown. Take them out and allow them to cool. All right, so these just came out of the oven. They have a nice browning on the top of them. Unfortunately, a couple of them had their fillings spill out. Those peppers were a little more shallow, so I'm not too surprised there, but they'll still taste amazing, trust me, and most of them look great. It definitely has softened a little bit, but it holds up pretty well here. But let me plate all of these up. Now for the smoked paprika. This is optional, but I like the little smoky touch that it adds, so just a nice gentle sprinkle over the surface of them. And chives, I chopped up these chives fresh out of the garden over the surface. Now for the taste test, I'll just eat one of the ugly ones. I'm sure it's gonna taste just fine. It's so good. If you haven't tried a popper before, you need to try it. This is a great place to start, super simple. The peppers maintain a little bit of their firmness, so they're a little crunchy still, and the filling is nice and warm and melty, full of flavor. Okay, so the banana pepper didn't hold up nearly as well. It's got more to hold, and the skin is, I don't know, same thickness probably, but let's see how this one is. Pretty much just as good. I will say banana peppers are a little bit big. You might want to just cut this with a fork and knife, or use something like a lunchbox pepper. You can buy those at the store now, those little sweet peppers that are shaped like jalapenos but don't have any heat. So those are our jalapeno poppers. I hope you'll give them a try. If you want the full recipe, I'll leave a link to it down below where you can print it out and save it. Thanks for watching Pepper Geek Eats, and we'll see you soon. Oh, hot.